what's up guys? Today's video is about why empathy is not a virtue. Empathy is merely a biological reaction to external stimuli. It's a reaction in which one's maternal instinct is engaged. And obviously we see this more commonly in women than in men. For them to have their empathy engaged, that maternal instinct, and to think and speak and act on the basis of those emotions. So it's inherently an emotional thing, not a rational thing. And we see that it can be quite a dangerous thing. When you look at the progressive liberal side of the political spectrum, actually, empathy is used as a weapon. People's own empathy and maternal natures are used as weapons against them. Women and more feminine men tend to vote, tend to make decisions on the basis of their empathetic reactions to things. The progressive left will fearmonger, will appeal to pity, appeal to emotion, make all these logical fallacies in their arguments in order to engage your emotions and to gain your sympathies, and force you into a place where you are really thinking with your feelings. You're thinking on the basis of that sort of tyrannical, potentially maternal instinct. When it's pushed to its extreme, it's tyrannical, as anything is. But their empathy is really used as a weapon against themselves and against whatever side is being opposed in argument. So it can be a very dangerous thing, because one of the core values that is sort of violated when someone's maternal instinct or empathy is engaged is fairness. And fairness is the basis of equality. But I would argue very strongly that fairness should not serve as the primary basis for any decision making. Fairness is about, things like rationing food. But even then, individuality should play a larger role in determining that, because not everyone requires the same amount of food, the same amount of nourishment, calories. So even on the micromanaging level, empathy, that is ultimately fairness, should not serve as the basis of those decisions. Fairness is not a virtue. Fairness is not a legitimate value, I'll say. Empathy is not a virtue. It is simply the propensity to have an emotional reaction to external stimuli. And it leaves one in a very vulnerable place, because when your maternal instinct is engaged, anything that you deem to be of victim status, of innocence, of a lower status than yourself, or of the general population, or of a particular group, you are going to feel an affinity with them. You're going to, in turn, feel a responsibility to speak or act or engage in some way on their behalf, which ultimately, in a political sense, is to say that you are not minding your own business. And really, if you want to be an individual, it's really the first thing I think that you should think about is whenever your emotions are engaged by some political cause or social issue or something like that, you should immediately take a step back, catch yourself, understand why you're feeling that way, and how it is, on a very general level, a good thing if you were to act on that. And 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, it comes from a highly solipsistic place. We talk about how like in the red pill community, how women tend to be solipsistic, and feminine men, the white knight types, tend to, barter on their behalf. It's a very self-centered place. It's a very self-centered approach to act on empathy without the intervention of rational analysis. To relate this to my Otuja process, which is the logical action-taking process that I've devised, you can find a link to an article on that in the description below. It's an acronym. It stands for Observe, Think, Understand, Judge, Act. The first and most important step to this process in making impartial and ultimately morally good decisions is to simply observe. Not only to simply observe what is going on outside of you, but to observe your own mental and emotional states within you so that you don't fall prey to, this sort of fear-mongering that, say, the progressive left often employs, that you don't fall victim to your own emotional incompetencies and immaturities, There must be an intervention of rational thought in order to make a decision. I'm not saying that you have to be a cold, hard, rational person with no emotion. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that emotion and empathy on its own cannot serve as a basis for good moral decision making. Morality is a very logical thing at the end of the day. And you can live in accordance with your own thoughts and feelings, but you're going to constantly be learning life's lessons the hard way if you do not adapt and come up with a set of principles that is in accordance with the truth, we might say. And the truth at the end of the day is narrow. There's only one truth, and that is perhaps truth itself. And so you have to base your morality on that. And if it's based on your emotions and your empathy, and which is to say that they're based on knee-jerk reactions to things that you see and experience and feel, then that's not really the right direction. It's only going to serve you in the short term at the expense of everyone else and yourself in the long term. As human beings, we are oriented toward the same goals. We are of a transcendental nature, and truth should be our highest value, especially when it comes to moral decision making. Ultimately, this is a more masculine thing, and so I think, and maybe we could talk about this in another video, it sort of reemphasizes why gender roles are not mere social constructs. In fact, social constructs are products of humans, and humans are products of nature, and nature is generally going to eliminate anything that does not serve the whole. If we take a definition of nature that is in accordance with scripture, but that's getting into other waters. Anyway, that is my video on why empathy is not a virtue, and why in the Otuja process I place impartial observation of the world and of your own mental and emotional states as the first and most important step in making good decisions in moral action and in life. So hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Cheers.